Yellow card for France after some forecasts that came out from the European Commission yesterday. Stephen was telling us about those. Now, what happened is that the EU says that France is not going to be able to hold its promise about keeping its deficit below or near the 3% ceiling. It's actually going to be around 4% in 2014 and will remain above 3% in 2015. So this is the front page of L'Opinion, the business paper, that says that this is yet another broken promise from the government. It comes hot on the heels of another promise it broke, and that was about unemployment. François Hollande had promised that he would turn around unemployment, inverse the unemployment curve by the end of 2013, but he didn't manage to do that. So L'Opinion, well, it's very harsh against the government. It says that the economic policy is a failure. Those are the words it uses in its editorial today. And all this has very serious consequences on the confidence of French people, because L'Opinion says, on the one hand, you have the government saying we're making all these drastic cuts, tightening our belt like we never have before. French people feel like they're really being bled dry here. But L'Opinion says then you have Brussels and the rest of Europe saying, why is France dragging its feet? Why aren't these policies working? L'Opinion says it's really the government that's not doing what it needs to do to really get on top of the deficit. It's not carrying out the deep reforms it really needs to.
I'm sure Stephen Carroll would agree. France not quite taking on the same measures, same strict reforms as other European countries are.
Yeah, and they have to make this other 50 billion euros worth of cuts. And the question is, if that isn't going to bring down the deficit, what are they going to do then to raise that money?
Exactly. Okay, well, let's move on from those economic matters. We'll stick with them. The Le Figaro. Never a stranger to criticising
right.
government.
Conservative paper, not surprising, it also lashes out against the Hollande's government, saying that France is really worrying the rest of Europe on this issue. We're pretty much exactly where we were exactly a year ago, says Le Figaro. That's when the government was kind of begging Europe for a grace period to get our deficit under control. But seems a lot like déjà vu, says Le Figaro. Les Echos, the business paper, is focusing on what all this really means for France. Well, more austerity measures. On the front page, it says that France has to tighten its belt some more. But the left of the left, for instance, the communist paper L'Humanité, says it's actually these austerity measures that are to blame. We've had austerity measures for 10 years, and they're not working. All this really seems like a vicious cycle. L'Humanité in its editorial says it seems a lot like a snake biting its own tail.
It's all very gloomy, isn't it? Let's move on to a juicy allegation of a political scandal. Cash for votes. Tell us more.
That's right. This is Serge Dassault. He's a very, very rich man, France's fourth richest man. He's also a senator. Well, Libération has exclusive information on their front page about, it says it has proof that Serge Dassault has indeed been buying votes in elections in Corbeil-Essonnes. That's a suburb of Paris where he was mayor. And on the front page there, they've actually put that evidence, what they say is evidence. It's basically a list of voters that he allegedly paid off. Now, Libération says that Serge Dassault used his fortune to buy off very vulnerable citizens in his community, and the scale of this scandal is huge. We're talking about 7 million euros, but Libération says this really goes beyond just one man. It goes beyond just Serge Dassault. This is a proof of a system of organized crime, corruption rather, that goes way back. And also, Libération, which is the left-leaning paper, has very harsh words for Dassault. He's the owner of Le Figaro, so their arch-rival, the conservative paper.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, they say that, here he is, he's a senator, he's been handing out lessons and giving big speeches about democracy and everything. But here he is, according to Libération, he's been walking all over democracy. That's what they say in their editorial today.
Okay, as we must say, all according to Libération, but perhaps an inquiry into that due to come. We'll have to wait and see. So got corruption, we've got the economic crisis, none of it very cheery for any of us here in France, and particularly young people. Le Monde has been focusing on a study into how they see their future. Do tell us it's optimistic.
It's really not. It's really depressing, I must admit. It's not La Vie en Rose, it's La Vie en Noir, according to Le Monde. This is basically a survey that was carried out of 18 to 34-year-olds. 210,000 young people answered this survey in the fall.
Extensive.
Yeah, pretty extensive. A wide range with various backgrounds, etc. They were answering questions about how they see themselves as a generation and how they see their future. Well, the key words are deep malaise. Basically, people feel frustrated about their current situation, and they don't feel like their situation is going to get any worse. For instance, when they were asked to define their generation, the first words that came off were sacrificed and lost. And they don't seem to think it's going to get any better either. Only 25% of them think that their life will be better than their parents. 45% of them think it's actually going to be worse.
That's terrible indictment, isn't it?
Sociologists say this is like a pressure cooker without a pressure valve. Basically, this is a generation that could very much revolt.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I hope you're going to be back with some cheerier news from the international papers with your next press review. Florence Filomeno, thanks very much for now. Thanks also to Stephen Carroll again, our business editor. We're going to take a short break, but coming up after that, more international news, including a special report from Spain after Europe defied strong opposition to approve a new type of genetically modified supercorn. Do find out more after the break.